Hari Om. Namaste everyone. A very warm welcome to day 76 of 108 days of Surya Namaskara or Sun Salutations Challenge. So today, as usual, we will first complete our physical practice, the asana flow practice of sun salutations. Then we move on to the yoga philosophy section. And as we learned in our last video, which is right here if you haven't watched, we talked about some details of sanyama, the subtle, the antaranga limbs, the internal limbs of the 8 limbs of yoga. Okay, the first 5 were yama, niyama, asana, pranayama and pratyahara. The last 3 that we talked about together, they are called sanyama, that is dharana, dhyana and samadhi. So we learned what it means and how they are internal in nature and all of that. Today we continue in the same chapter, chapter 3, Vibhūti Pāda. We talk about also 3 sutras, number 8, 9 and 10. And in that, especially in the last 2, we will talk about a very special state of mind, which Mahārshi Patanjali talks about, Nirodha Parinamah. Nirodha, restraint, Parinamah means resultant, effect, the state of mind of restraint. Very interesting, very effective and very practical for our daily lives. Okay, so stay tuned for that. For now, let's get onto the mat for our physical practice. Come on. Yoga Philosophy, day 76. Before we go to the Nirodha Parinamah, that state that we just talked about at the beginning, I want to complete the last part of the Samyama, which is related to the Antaranga limbs of yoga, right? So, when compared to the first 5, that is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama and Pratyahara, they are Antaranga, means more internal limbs. But if you talk about the Nirbija Samadhi, the seedless Samadhi, which Maharishi Patanjali introduces in the first chapter, we haven't discussed, of course, in details about any of those Samadhi states. But compared to that, the seedless Samadhi, even these 3 states of Sanyama, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi, these 3 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga are also Bahiranga, are external limbs itself, compared to the Nirbija Samadhi state. So, the sutra goes like this. The 8th sutra of the 3rd chapter, Vibhūti Pāda, Maharishi Patanjali says, Tadapi Bahirangam Nirbijasya. Tadapi Bahirangam Nirbijasya. Tat api, even that, Bahirangam, external limb, Nirbijasya, of Nirbija Samadhi. Nirbija Samadhi means when there is no seed there, just the state itself. And again, it's very loosely I'm saying, we are not talking about Nirbija Samadhi, it's very subtle, very sophisticated, but I just want to mention, know that even if we have been referring to Sanyama as the internal limbs of yoga, as the internal, these 3 limbs of yoga as the internal limbs of yoga, even they are external when compared to the Nirbija state of Samadhi, super conscious state, okay? That is Sutra number 8. Now for Sutra number 9, I want to take help of the Yoga Sutra textbook because it's kind of long and I want to make sure every single part is very clear to you, okay? Vyuthana Nirodha Sanskarayoho Abhibhava Pradurbhavau Nirodha Kshana Chitta Anvayaha Nirodha Parinamah. Once again, Vyuthana Nirodha Sanskarayoho Abhibhava Pradurbhavau Nirodha Kshana Chittanayaha Nirodha Parinamah. One more time, since it's a little longer. Vyuthana Nirodha Sanskarayoho Abhibhava Pradurbhavau Nirodha Kshana Chitta Anvayaha Nirodha Parinamah. If you say it together, it will be like Vyuthana Nirodha Sanskarayo Rabhibhava Pradurbhavau Nirodha Kshana Chittanayo Nirodha Parinamah. What does it mean? The impressions which naturally arise are made to disappear by the appearance of suppressive efforts, which in turn create new mental modifications. The moment of conjunction of mind and new modifications is Nirodha Parinamah. See, Nirodha means restraint. Parinam means, I told, Parinam means its result. It's the final outcome. Parinam, okay? The final result. So, the final result of restraint of what? The restraint of the impressions. The impressions that arise within us. It can be any kind of impressions coming out of your samskara from past lives or even in this life based on our karmic imprints, which normally arise, are made to disappear by the appearance of suppressive efforts, which in turn create new mental modifications. The moment of conjunction of mind and new modifications is called or is Nirodha Parinamah. Okay? So, basically, whatever impressions there is arising within our mind by our conscious effort, and why is Maharishi Patanjali talking about this all of a sudden Nirodha Parinama? First of all, these sutras are cryptic, right? To find, if you want to logically find one after the other, it might be difficult, but if we think through it, at this point we talked about the 8 limbs of yoga. We have already slid into the chapter of the manifestations, the occult powers. We talked about the Antaranga sadhana, Antaranga limbs, the more inner core limbs of yoga, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. We talked about they together are called Sanyama and all regarding the Sanyama. All of a sudden then we are talking about Nirodha Parinamah. Means you can think of it, there is a connection in the sense ki with the effort, by making conscious effort, being in the state of Sanyama, okay, or even maybe taking all these 8 limbs together, being in that state of complete mastery of the 8 limbs, which helps us to make the effort to replace, to suppress not in the sense of negation, but to nip in the bud all those impressions that arise within us naturally, normally, by replacing it with new mental modifications of our choice. Look at the power, the empowerment happening in this sutra. We can replace and we can disappear, we can make the impressions arising within us normally, unconsciously, make them disappear by new mental modifications, right? Are made to disappear by the appearance of suppressive efforts using the tools, the limbs of yoga, which in turn create new mental modifications. And this moment of conjunction of mind and new modifications, when we have successfully dispelled off any of those sanskars or imprints or impressions that's arising within us uncontrollably by conscious effort, by suppressive efforts, and made them disappear and replace them with new mental modifications. That junction moment of the mind and these new modifications is called Nirodha Parinamah, because that's what is the result of our efforts of restraint. Is it making sense? Later on, Maharishi Patanjali talks about Pratipaksha Bhavana. Pratipaksha Bhavana. Maharishi Patanjali, in one of the sutras, exact sutra, you can see it here in the text showing up. Maharishi Patanjali talks about Pratipaksha Bhavana, okay, alternative thoughts. Alternative thoughts. So, this is a concept that is coming up again and again. And in this sutra, sutra number 9 in 3rd chapter, he is empowering us, saying that the suppressive efforts consciously can be made to dispel off any of these impressions that's coming up normally, especially in our day-to-day lives, without unconsciously these impressions are arising. We can nip all of them in the bud by making suppressive efforts. And new mental modifications can be brought in. This is called Nirodha Parinamah, the results, the transformation of restraint. We don't allow those impressions that do not serve us to take over, especially the mind. Okay, mind is superpower. That was sutra number 9. Next, we move on to the last sutra for today, sutra number 10 in 3rd chapter, which talks about Nirodha Parinamah that we just learned. Tasya prashanta vahita sanskarat. Tasya prashanta vahita sanskarat. Tasya means of that, his, its. Here, Nirodha Parinamah. Prashanta Vahita means steady flow. Vahita means flow. Prashanta means very steady, calm, uninterrupted. Sanskarat. Sanskar means habits that we generate by repetitive behavior. That's habit, right? So, that kind of empowerment does not happen out of the blue, bolt from the blue. It happens through sanskars, how we have made our habits. So, the steady flow of this means the steady flow of Nirodha Parinamah happens through habits. Okay, sanskar means through well-rooted habits. You see, whenever there is the empowerment that Maharishi Patanjali is infusing us with, he is also giving us the responsibility and mentioning very clearly, it does not happen in and of itself. We have to put effort, and we are talking about here effort of creating sanskar, means it will be imprinted in our genetic code, as if in the sense that it will be imprinted within us so strongly that it will happen even just like when we brush teeth. When we say, if you drive a car, you don't think too much about by pressing the clutch and then change the gear. It happens as your habit, like something that you have done million times already. Like that, this Nirodha Parinama state of replacing or making disappear all the normally arising mental impressions by the new impressions of your choice, this can also happen by making it a conscious habit. by sanskar. Sanskar means like deep-rooted habit. And how the sanskars will be built? By how we are exposing ourselves, our physical body, our sukshma sharira, our emotional body, subtle body, and our spiritual body in our day-to-day life. That's how sanskars, through our karma, of course, that's how all these imprints will be rooted within us. So we have to make the habits of making this Nirodha Parinama a continuous flow state so that it can happen every single time without fail. But it requires building of that habit. Okay? So empowerment comes with responsibility and clear action step. That's how. What a beautiful guideline for the coaches, for all the holistic healers, all the health coaches or the life coaches, anybody who is in the leadership state of empowering others. See, this is empowerment going right here. First, words of hope, empowerment, and then that is coming with clear responsibility, accountability, and action steps. Okay, so with that, 76th day yoga philosophy comes to an end here. We will continue and see what else comes up. Stay tuned for that. So thank you so much for joining me until this far. And if you are seeing me for the first time, as I said, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, share this video generously and this channel generously with your loved and dear ones, so that you can make them also a part of this transformative revolution, I would love to call it. Okay? And if you're wondering where you can find all the other videos, here is the playlist. You can watch all the other videos here, and do comment in every single video. Let me know what you are thinking. I would love to see, read and respond to each one of them to the best of my capabilities. Thank you. See you on 77th session.